Now let's come to the, briefly to the case studies. I hope you have gone to the case studies once. How many of you have not gone through the case studies? Please raise so that I can briefly tell what is the gist of the case study. All of you have gone through the case studies at least once? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'll briefly give what is the case study rather than going line by line. Question number 9, that is the first case study, fresh engineer graduate job in a prestigious chemical. Shall I read it completely or shall I tell you the gist? Gist, okay. See, there is a girl who is doing well in her job, engineering graduate woman who is doing a good in her job in a chemical industry. Now, what is happening in that industry? She is getting a good salary. She is happy with her job. Everything is going well. But there is something which is not in sync with the moral principles, that she accidentally discovers that her industry, chemical industry, is throw some toxic waste into the river nearby. Now, this is causing health problems, etc., etc. She has in fact spoken to the colleagues also, but they haven't responded positively to her, positively in a sense that they have said that, okay, fine, you should ignore it, sort of thing. Also, it is being written that she is the sole breadwinner of her family and has support to ailing parents and siblings. So at this point of time, she has thought that as the seniors have told her to remain quiet, okay, she should not raise the voice. Now, at heart, she feels that there is a moral conscience, individual conscience, which dictates her that everything is not right if I remain silent. But she is confused. Now, she thinks that you are a wise person, okay, as it is written here. She thinks that you are a wise person and seeks your advice. So you have to give an advice like a wise man, like a Socrates. Okay, what are the arguments? Okay, question. Let's come to the question. What are the arguments that you can advance to show her that keeping quiet is not morally correct? Okay, remaining silent is not morally correct. And what course of action do you advise her to adopt and why? Okay, first, why you will see that it's not correct to be morally right. Quiet to be morally. See, the thing is, in fact, it is being said, there is one quotation which can sum up everything. That is, bad things in a society is not out of people are bad, but the wise people or the moral people remain silent. Okay, that is the tyranny of the majority is to gain a strong foothold. Only requirement thing is people of moral conscience remain silent. Okay, when the people of moral conscience remain silent, then there will be a tyranny. Tyranny, you understand? Okay, that is all the bad elements. So, in fact, you can say that now there can be various things can be forwarded. Reasons being, that is this activity that is toxic waste. Okay, itself is an immoral act because it affects the health. Larger public interest is getting hampered. Larger public interest is getting hampered because the health issues are involved, and therefore she should speak about it. Second, environment, okay, river and environment issue that is getting degraded, that is B. Health issue is A, environment is B. C is what we call as a corporate ethical governance, okay, or this is called as, it is against the ethos of good corporate governance, okay, it is against the ethos of good corporate governance or ethical corporate governance. In fact, so these are the 3 points. Okay, one is at larger public interest, second is environment, and third is organization. It is against the organization. So she should speak about it. Now the point is, these are the direct answers, but how you have to make it more spicy and elongate your answer. First of all, introduce the question. Okay, pehle introduction likho ki what is the dilemma for her. Okay, she is in the ethical dilemma. That the ethical dilemma is larger public interest versus personal interest. Okay, the ethical dilemma she is in is larger public interest or society's interest versus the personal interest. Now, what is a personal interest? If she will raise the voice, maybe she will have to face the negative consequences. Maybe she will be suspended from the job, and it is already mentioned that she is the only breadwinner of the family. So there are certain moral consideration why she is not speaking, because on the other side, there are certain personal cost that is involved if she speaks. So write that also in a dilemma, that is, this is a case of public interest versus personal cost dilemma. Personal values that are involved are this, but at the same time you can say that the public's values, which is the larger health issue, that is a public health issue, larger this environmental issue, and wrong ethical practices in the organization. Therefore, in this context, she should speak, she should come forward for the larger public interest and just not look into the personal interest. Please. Yes, but the thing is, how does it relate with the not speaking and speaking? So putting more resources for or against, she should or she should not. That's a natural consequence. Okay, that's not a consideration for her really. Okay, personal and environmental consideration, yes, government will have to spend more money. Okay. Yes, very good. Yes, you can. Yes, yes. Yes, yes, very good. In fact, there is a concept called cognitive dissonance. Just now I have mentioned cognitive dissonance. जो बताया था. What is cognitive dissonance? There is a depression that you go through when your action does not match with your conscience. Okay, there is a limit with which you can have the two different things, what you think in your mind and what you actually practice. So over the period of time, she start thinking, okay, depressing that I think that this is a wrong thing to do, but still I am practicing it. So that has to be stopped. Cognitive dissonance, mat likhiye ye word. It may create a conflict of thoughts in her mind, so that she may face the anxiety, depression, and therefore she may not able to contribute more for the organization also, and she will not keep herself happy also at individual level. Are you understanding? This will lead into the conflict of thoughts in a long run. When there is a conflict of thoughts, you feel anxiety, depression, and you will not able to work in a more productive manner. So that hamper your efficiency also. Is it fine? Okay. So there are 4 reasons: environmental, health, organizational, and individual reasons. And moral duty, बाकी तो और मतलब spices डाल ही सकते हो. Virtue ethics, moral duty, constitutional obligation, ये वो बाकी तो है. Yes, what course of action you are going to advise her and why? See here they haven't asked about the options, so you have to straightforward write the course of action. And you have to write why course of action. Now we know that she has to first of all say that she cannot remain silent. Okay, she should speak about it. That's the first you should start, that she should speak about it. She should raise the voice against the wrongdoings. In fact, it is injustice if you will not raise the voice against the wrongdoings. In fact, you can write in a negative way if she remains silent. ऊपर में लिखा जा सकता है. यही बताया था मैंने कि अगर आपके पास पॉइंट नहीं है तो पॉजिटिवली लिखो और निगेटिवली लिखो. If she remain quiet, then it will embolden their spirit, and then this thing continue to hamper, etc., etc. So second में she should speak. That's the first point. Now once we have written what she should speak, there is a graded way we can write. Okay, we know that whistle blowing should be there. But even before whistle blowing, because for the whistle blowing there is a dilemma. There are 2 types of dilemmas for her. First of all, organizational image will get tarnished in public. Okay, that's also aspect for any person, employee working in an organization, that organizational image should not get tarnished in the long run. And second dilemma for her is, if she blow the whistle publicly, then she may be suspended and removed from the job. So she has to also take into account that. So course of action can be graded one. First of all, she should talk to her seniors and give a written, like, see, always write whenever such wrongdoing is objective. That is first he should talk. Second is she should collect the objective evidences, because it cannot be a subjective assumption that okay, this industry mein itna ja raha hai. She should have an objective evidences about it. she should collect the objective evidences and speak to the seniors and give it in writing that these are the things which are happening and taken measures against it. If they remain silent, then talk to the higher ups, okay, the hierarchy, okay, higher ups may talk karo. If they remain silent now, or they say that you should not speak about it, then any internal vigilant agency मतलब internal whistleblowing और external whistleblowing, ऐसे दो रहते हैं. Internal whistleblowing is something internal independent body which takes into account the complaints. So you can complain that I have written the letter to the senior officials, but all are remain silent. Therefore, you are blowing the lead, but inside the organization. If again there is no response, then you are forced to blow the lead for the larger public interest. So perhaps maybe you will get a response from the senior or top senior or maybe the internal, because you have already taken into account both dilemmas, that is the organizational image as well as the larger public interest. But when the whole organization is corrupt, including the vigilant organization, then you have to blow the whistle. So this is how you have to write. Have you understood this point? Okay. Please do not write that I will do this, that. You are not an authority. The question is not talking about I will go and join some NGO, environmental NGO, I will dial to this and that, etc. That's not what is expected. I will spend some funding out of me in order to clear the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, ye वगैरह कुछ नहीं है, ठीक है? So that's not a thing. I hope the point is clear. Yes, any point? Yes, please. So that is what the ethics is about. In certain situation when the public health and etc. is there, in fact, first A, B and C steps are because of that. So, yes. Yes, we have seen, we have said that objective evidences means, yes, documentation. She will get another job, okay, but people are not that kind and optimistic, yes, certainly. No, say there are two things again. Yes, last resort, or you can write to government regulatory authority also. See, okay. Yes, he will do your half of the. Yes, there. See, in certain cases, all the actions may not be individually possible. Okay. Now here you are a part of organization. Therefore, this. Think of an employee who is not a part of organization and he came to know about it. What will be your answer? Are you understanding the question? The same story, but this lady or the girl is not a part of organization. She's just a common man, mango people, okay? But she has seen this. In such cases, you have to bring media, you have to bring NGO, you have to bring government, because one person individually cannot do the things. So वहाँ पे जो response होगा वो completely अलग होगा. She does not have this dilemma tarnishing the image of organization, etc. That moral dilemma is not there for her. So simply she can involve the public in a sense that media, civil society, social media, NGOs, through which she can create a more voice to the problem. Have you understood the point? Okay. So the next question is with regard to land needing for the mining. Okay, I'll just briefly tell that there is certain land acquisition and sort of thing is going on, but this land acquisition area involves the area of Adivasis, hilly dwellers and rural community. Okay. The area of land acquisition that is coming from the Adivasi, hilly dweller and the rural community. So there is going to be an problems such as problem of rehabilitation and etc. And it is also being said in this case that people who are living in that area, they do not know any other, they don't hone any sort of skill, so that if they can be removed from that, they can be absorbed in some other business. So for them, that land, particular a given land is very, very important. Okay, and therefore that land and their importance has been mentioned. Okay, यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है, they do not possess the marketable skills to engage in some other occupation. They end up in low-paid migrant laborers, and their traditional ways of community living will be destroyed if the land is acquired. So in this case, the benefits of development will go to only the industries, to the urban communities, etc., etc. So this unjust distribution of the cost as beneficial is unethical. So what does the whole question means? That if the land and this will be acquired, only industry and capitalists will grow, and they will grow at the cost of the problems of Adivasis, hilly dwellers and rural community. Now the question says that suppose you are given the task of drafting compensation cum rehabilitation policy of such displaced people. How would you approach the problems and what will be the main elements of your suggested policy? Yes. What is, if you are in a situation, what should be the compensation cum rehabilitation policy for such displaced person? How do you approach the problems and what will be the main elements of your policy? Yes. So that's not a very difficult question, I would say. Environment assessment impact. Okay, very good. Environment assessment also social assessment. EIA and SIA. Okay. So the policy is compensation cum rehabilitation. Okay, one point I can take, that is environment impact assessment and social impact assessment. Okay. Okay, very good. In fact, involvement of stakeholders, that the decision should not be taken arbitrarily. It should be involvement of participatory approach. Participatory approach in decision making. Whatever the decision you are going to do and policy you are going to frame, policy should not be made arbitrarily in air. Policy should be made by involving the people. Okay, that is a participatory approach. That is by involving the stakeholders. Okay, involving all the stakeholders which are getting affected by this decision directly or indirectly. That is a stakeholder approach. Yes. What else? Okay, local should be like, okay, fine. See, the thing is, when the industry is there, you have to take certain raw material and certain labor. Okay, so this has to be collected from the, again, from the source. Yes. ट्राइबल पंचशील. ओके, ठीक है. ट्राइबल पंचशील है तो आप फिर आगे ही नहीं जा पाओगे. मतलब है इंपॉर्टेंट वैसे ट्राइबल पंचशील. नहीं, लास्ट नहीं है, फिलोसॉफिकली पॉइंट है, पहले ही लिखना चाहिए. But I'll explain that how we see. The thing is, let me tell first what should be the structure of answer. Structure of answer should be just a second. Structure of answer should be what is the question? That is, it's only one question. Formulate the compensation cum rehabilitation policy and what are the factors. So your question first, introduction should be what are the ethical issues involved. Okay, first introduction में थोड़ा सा लिखो कि this tribal and their particular rights. In fact, you have to write tribal and their all problems जो भी लिखे हुए हैं वहाँ पे. Cultural aspect, employment aspect, livelihood aspect, survival, etc. But do not forget about writing the developmental part also. That is a consequential ethics versus deontological ethics जो बोला जाता है. Okay, they are talking about the development also. So you can say that there is a larger debate with respect to upholding the tribal and traditional rights versus the development. So that's an ethical dilemma, how to balance this equation. So this first you write that this is an ethical issue and we need to balance both. That development should not happen at the cost of tribal rights or a violation of or exploitation of the tribals, and tribal rights upholding should not be the consideration or stumbling blocks for the development. Both can go hand in hand. In the second you can write what are the principles that you are going to follow. Okay, in general philosophical principles you can follow. Philosophical principles you can follow is, first is justice. Okay, second is you can say that the socioeconomic justice. Second is this about the participatory approach in decision making, fairness, inclusive growth, sustainable development. So these are the principles which will be my consideration for formulating the policy. Okay, first is what are the ethical issues. In that, against these ethical issues, this will be my approach. I will take this as a benchmark for formulating my policy. Now, what will be the policy look like? I am incorporating EIA, SIA and Gram Sabha because participatory is my approach. Then tribal Panchashil, in fact tribal Panchashil can be written in the principles. Okay, in principles you can write social justice, inclusive growth, sustainable development, fairness, etc., etc. And then now you can formulate the policy. In the policy, there are certain hints here: compensation and rehabilitation. So you can simply come forward a compensation, that one-time compensation, some lump sum money can be given based upon the market value. Okay. In fact, I remember this Amravati model है उसमें land pooling में. Okay, if you know the Amravati model, Amravati का महाराष्ट्र का Amravati, what we are talking about? Andhra Pradesh में Amravati है. Okay, there is Amravati which came in prelims, I think, in for Maharashtra वाला जो था, या फिर last year आया था, कुछ caves वगैरह है. So here we are talking about that land pooling में क्या उनका मॉडल है. This model in fact can be taken as, उसमें जो है एक तो लमसम दे ही दिया है, प्लस उनको इन्वॉल्व किया है फॉर द लॉन्ग टर्म डेवलपमेंटल प्रोसेस. लाइक से फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ देयर इज अ acreage of land is there, okay, a lump sum compensation is given, okay, one time compensation, plus जितना भी बिल्टअप एरिया उन्होंने डेवलपमेंटल कुछ बिल्डिंग बनाई है तो उसमें से कुछ उसमें स्टेक होल्डर्स ओनरशिप राइट दिए है उसको. सो यू आर नॉट लूजिंग योर ओनरशिप राइट ऑल्सो, एंड प्लस देयर इज अ वन टाइम कॉम्पेंसेशन ऑल्सो. कई बार क्या हो जाता है वन टाइम कॉम्पेंसेशन के बाद, व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम विथ वन टाइम कॉम्पेंसेशन? First of all, that money can be misused or for other purposes. Second thing, there is no that is not sustainable. Okay, there is no sustainable means of livelihood. Then third is there is a lack of ownership. There is an emotive issue also. Emotive issue, understand? Once you lack that, you do not belong to land and etc. So there are issues. So these issues can be brought in through the participatory approach, wherein one-time compensation, some lump sum can be given. At the same time, rehabilitation in the form. Now you can. Break will break you permanently. Okay, it will not be a recess school wala. Yes. Anyways, one can move out for 5 minutes. Okay, ऐसे कुछ नहीं है कि एकदम ही dictatorial class चल रहा है यहाँ पे कि you cannot make a move. Okay, you can. हाँ, ethical, democratic approach है काफी. Yes, what I was explaining? Yes, one-time compensation is there. Then see, the question says that they do not have the skills, etc. So obviously, जो भी industry and development कर रहे हो, you can include them in the developmental process also. So not only a one-time compensation, but including the people into the developmental process. How cultivate some skills into them so that they can able to absorb into the developmental process. In fact, you have to tell that this will make them sustainable. This will also empower them. This will also resolve the problems of livelihood and rest of the other concerns. And some sort of ownership rights also can be given. It's not just the participation, but they can be also been considered as one of the stakeholders in the decision-making process and ownership. Apart from that, rehabilitation may, you can say that this aspect, compensation in this, may address their livelihood concerns and socio-economic concerns. But in the larger interest, we also have to think about all-round development of tribals. So in all-round development of tribals, if they are their educational aspect, their health aspect, and the rest of the other security aspects should be taken into account, so that a complete package will be given, that rather than this development as an bane for them, it should be considered as a boon for them, so that all the problems which I have mentioned, cultural and livelihood, can be addressed. Okay, so you can give certain. Yes, please. हाँ, ट्राइबल पंचशील एक्चुअली ये पंचशील वर्ड है इंडिया और चाइना के बीच में, जो फेमस हुआ था, जो जोनू एनलाई और नेहरू वगैरह 1954 में व्हेन दे हैव साइन द टिबेट एग्रीमेंट. तो उसमें जैसे कुछ एक कॉन्सेप्ट से नॉन इंटरवेंशन. ओके, सो हाँ, नॉन अलाइन नहीं, नॉन इंटरफेरेंस, नो एग्रेशन, नो इंटरफेरेंस, एक्सेट्रा. So here on the same lines, those principle has to be applied while dealing with the tribals. Tribals has unique culture, so without disturbing their own culture, जैसे होता है ना कि uprooting their culture, mainstreaming is fine, but mainstreaming should not happen at the cost of uprooting of their culture. Okay, we have to also respect their culture while we are developing. So that is called tribal panchashil. So in a sense that you have to respect the tribal culture and their customary practices while making a development. ठीक है. But tribal पंचशील there are strict बहुत strict हो जाएगा वो कि क्योंकि आप बहुत ज़्यादा वो नहीं कर पाओगे उसमें. ठीक है. But yes, right, the spirit of tribal पंचशील has to be followed. Okay, rather than tribal पंचशील has to be followed. ठीक है. So that's how you can articulate. There is nothing much and give certain examples. Yes, certainly. Yes, yes. Compensation, rehabilitation में rehabilitation on all the grounds. Rehabilitation with respect to livelihood, rehabilitation with respect to prosperity, education, health, and all around development of the tribals. Yes, in fact, that's a, see, there are more details. Like when rehabilitation is being done, rehabilitation should be done in the same tribal community as maximum as possible. Yes, ये point सही है. Yes, next is question number 11. Suppose you are officer in charge of social service to provide. Okay, this is a very straightforward question. In fact, without changing a single word, it came from the class. Okay, we have done with this case study absolutely similar. In fact, it appeared in one of the exam also. Okay, the question was straightforward that you are an officer, okay, and old and destitute woman has come to your office, and she is illiterate, old, etc., etc. So she has to get some certain benefits of the scheme. She has no document to show that she fulfills the eligible criteria. Now, see, on one side, she does not have the documents, but at the same time, there are compelling reasons that she is a old, she is a destitute, she is a illiterate. Now, in such cases, there is a dilemma in front of you that your inquiry shows that she is really destitute. मतलब और बताया गया है कि वो कहने के लिए नहीं है. She is really, that you have inquired about it. She is really destitute, living in a pitiable situation. You are in a dilemma as what to do. Put her under the scheme without necessary documents. Would clearly, in fact, यहाँ पे hint दे दी थी आंसर में. Okay, that is, in fact, what should have been done, इतना ही लिखना चाहिए था उनको. But in fact, they have incorporated the answer also. Putting her under the scheme without necessary document would clearly means the violation of rule. Okay, and denying her support would be a cruel and inhuman. Okay, so दो तो यहाँ पे ही options थे आपके extreme option. One is strictly following the rule, जो अभी Weberian model of bureaucracy हम discuss कर रहे थे. If you are strictly following the rules, then you lack empathy and compassion. You are cruel and inhuman. Okay, and in fact, the objective of governance is happiness of people. Rules are the means and the happiness of the people is an end. So if the rules becomes end in itself, then there is a problem with respect to the governance, because rules becomes end here. So therefore, ignoring her situation is not correct. Now, if you bring this argument and say that, okay, she is now a destitute and this thing, therefore exception can be made so that she can be granted the house. If this is the answer, what's the problem with this answer? Exception can be made, and violation of rules. Okay, what else? Things. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, that is one another criteria. See, the thing is, this will give a signal to the society that even if the rules and regulations are not there, you just have to come and walk down. Okay, obviously I'm not undermining her situation, but the thing is, the rules are not so important, and the government has a very casual approach in dealing with it. So that's also, in fact, that's create a scope. This is like a slippery slope argument. Slippery slope समझ में आता है? Slippery slope मतलब आज आपने justify किया कि rules are not important, we can make flexibility. Then it create a scope for more and more discretionary use of power, and ultimately this becomes a scope for misuse of power also in the long run. So the rules are also important. Huh? Yes, please. What do you want to say? In fact, that is the answer. That is what we are going to come. See, the rules are important, but ignore completely rigidity with the rules is not the issue. Second is, if you are getting driven by the empathy and compassion, it will again give a signal. In fact, your objectivity and impartiality in the long run may get hampered if you are not following the rules and regulations. So the simple way is, why not to help her in getting the documents? Okay. In fact, apathy is not about following the rules and regulation. Apathy is about considering rules as a rigid and then not taking in proactive measures in order to make those rules being accessible by the public. Are you understanding? So you have to write these arguments clearly, that can you think of rational way to resolve the dilemma? Yes, there is a rational way. You can say that both rules also followed and empathy and compassion also can be shown in a way that I will go an extra mile in arranging all the accessibility of the documents. I will help her in getting her documents so that rule also can be followed. At the same time, she can also get the benefit of the service. So here in conclusion, you can write the rules as well as empathy and compassion should go hand in hand. And as a bureaucrat, it is important that rule cannot be easily flouted. Otherwise it will give a lot of scope, and in the long run and more subjectivity will come, and more subjectivity will create a scope for misuse of power. Therefore rules are important. So have you understood this point? Okay. Now give the reasons for it. यही reasons है कि अगर आप empathy compassion दिखाओगे, rule नहीं दिखाओगे तो क्या हो जाएगा, और rule अगर follow करोगे तो how it will become a considered as a rigid administration without having a public service oriented attitude. Okay, that's how you have to write. Now, yes, in the happiness of subject lies the happiness of the king. So obviously, if you are not, say, what is the use of that means which does not make the people happy if the end is not achieved? And if you are achieving the end, in fact, it is being said that there is no wrong method of doing the right thing. Okay, means and ends wala Gandhi ne. You cannot end justifies means ऐसे नहीं हो सकता. Okay, means should be equally good as that of the ends. So you have to follow the principal continuity between the means as well as the ends. In fact, this point you could have written in introduction. Okay, introduction में लिख सकते हो कि end is welfare of this destitute, but the means is following the procedure. So there is a dichotomy or the dilemma in between whether the means should be given preference or the end should be given preference, or whether the rule should be given preference or the people's welfare should be given preference, and both should be given preference. Therefore we have to find out the third way here. So that's the point here. Okay, let's come to the next one. This is with regard to the young aspiring officers in such employments. Okay, that's a case interesting one. Again, something like you have joined, say for example, any organization. I will very briefly summarize what is the question here. You have joined one organization. Your boss is very kind to you. He is a very good person, human being, gentleman, etc., etc. All good attributes you can attach to this fellow. Okay, it's that. On one day you visit his house for some work, and you hear some shouting. Okay, shouting noises are being heard in the background. After entering, the boss but you were constantly disturbed by the crying of women. Okay, that's voices of a crying of a woman. At last you inquired with the boss, and his answer did not satisfy you. So obviously he has dodged the question. Patriarchal attitude. Okay. Next day you were compelled to inquire further in the office and found that his behavior is very bad at his home with his wife. Okay, so that's clearly stated. It's not about like assumption. Once it is written that inquiry has been made and you have found that her attitude is not very good with respect to his wife. He also beats bit of his wife. His wife is not well educated. She is a simple woman in comparison to her husband. You see that through your boss though your boss is a nice person in the office, he is engaged in the domestic violence at home. So it's a clear-cut case of domestic violence. There is no confusion that whether it is an allegation or suspicion or this thing. In such a situation, you are left with the following option. In fact, the question is they have made a little bit more easy. Analyze each option and its consequence, that merit and demerit. Just ignore the things because it is your personal matter. It is their personal matter. What are the merits and demerits of this? Demerit is a personal dilemma. No, demerit is you are continuing, you are not raising the voice against the domestic violence. Okay? Yes, that is the most important one. That is a demerit. Merit, is there any merit? Is there any merit of this option? Yes, narrow personal interest, because you want to remain in good terms with your boss. Okay, you do not want to make a fuss. So personal interest, there is a one issue which is a social evil and another thing which is a personal interest. So larger public issue is not your concerns, but your concern is more of a personal motive. In fact, there is a value called selflessness. So यहाँ पे selflessness नहीं आया, यहाँ पे your personal interest has become more important. So advantage may be your personal interest, but demerit is that you remain silent about the domestic violence and you do not raise voice against it. Okay, much things can be other things can be written. Report the case to the appropriate authority. Yes, analyze this option and its consequences. Report the case with the appropriate authority. Demerit. Okay. See, the thing is, remember one thing, in merit and demerit while writing, do not write equally. If you are going to reject that option, so demerit should be written more if you are going to reject. क्या हो जाता है आंसर्स पेपर्स में देखा गया कि 2 पॉइंट इसके तो 2 पॉइंट इसके खींच खींच के लिखते हो, या फिर कभी कभी डीमेरिट ऑप्शन यू आर गोइंग टू रिजेक्ट बट यू आर राइटिंग टू मेनी मेरिट्स, तो ऐसे सिग्नल चला जाता है एग्जामिनर को कि ही इज गोइंग टू लाइक हिज हार्ट एंड माइंड इज विद दिस, अल्टीमेटली ही इज रिजेक्टिंग. सो इफ यू आर रिजेक्टिंग इट, डू नॉट राइट टू मेनी मेरिट्स. मेरा इंक्रीमेंट हो जाएगा, मेरा प्रमोशन हो जाएगा, आई विल बी इन ए गुड, माई प्रोडक्टिविटी विल इंक्रीज, सो टू मेनी थिंग्स. और डीमेरिट में लिखा हुआ है डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस विल बी रिजॉल्व्ड. तो इससे क्या मैसेज जाता है कि डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस इज नॉट इन योर हार्ट, ओके, बट द प्रमोशन इज इन योर हार्ट. सो राइट, प्रमोशन इज देयर बट द थिंग और बीइंग इन गुड टर्म्स, बट इन डीमेरिट देन यू राइट इवन व्हेन my promotion and internal security, but still there is a larger issue of domestic violence, women rights, she's also illiterate, she cannot go herself, etc., etc., those points. Appropriate authority. Your own innovative approach towards the situation. Yes, in fact this question sometimes UPSC also frame very in a crooked way. ऊपर लिखा हुआ है analyze each option with its consequences. अब C में तो options बनाना है आपको, ठीक है, there is no option है basically. ऊपर लिखा हुआ है कि analyze each option and its consequence. अब तीसरा ऑप्शन क्या है? Your innovative approach towards the situation. पहले लिखो फिर उसके consequences. Yes, what are the innovative approach? Yes, this is going to be an important question because, yes, innovative approach. Yes, क्या? Report to an woman NGO. Okay, ठीक है, direct. एक one by one. Yes, reform how? Okay, see the thing is in such cases you please identify different stakeholders, तो आपका आंसर आ जाएगा. एक लेते हैं वो बॉस है. Okay, so have a counseling with the boss. Okay, counseling with the boss, make him understand. Okay, that is through the method of persuasion that women rights are important. Okay, and she also like this is a reflection of patriarchy, you should gender equality, etc., etc., and to this end you should mend your behavior. Okay, you should mend your behavior and you should uphold the values of gender equality, you should stop the violence, etc. This is a method of persuasion. But method of persuasion boss को ही लिखना है. If he will not mend his behavior, I will also threaten him. Okay, that is I will file the case against you if you are not mending your behavior. So persuasion as well as a sort of a deterrence or threatening that if you do not mend your behavior easily, then you have to face a dire consequences because you will be left with no options but to file the case. Okay, that is with respect to the boss, you can do it. Then come to this wife. Wife, obviously wife of boss. So यहाँ पे क्या क्या कर सकते हैं कि first of all educate her that she has a legal and constitutional rights. Okay, educate her that she has rights and she should not fear that she is under this domestic violence act है. So educate her with respect to domestic violence act, etc., etc., and show a solidarity. See, here there is a component of when you are writing the ethical question, you should visualize her, yourself, that put into the shoes of others and etc. So first of all, there is a fear, insecurity, etc. These components are there. So you should also write that, showing a solidarity with her, telling her that he will support in particularly getting the justice with regard to it, make him understand her rights, Domestic Violence Act, and in any situation, if she requires any kind of a support to take the resolution of problems, or for that matter, taking the issue to the logical conclusion, so she can like expect the support from this fellow. So that's about, or maybe helping her in the situation, helping her to file the case, etc., etc. So that is with respect to the wife. The third option can be like bringing the both of these two people in the negotiating table together. Okay, like say for example, putting them together and conflict management. What are the issues with respect to you, and why such things are happening? Mediation. Okay, mediation. You yourself can be a mediator first. Okay, mediation. Because see, the thing is, in such cases, it's also important that secrecy and issues within the four walls are important. So like mediation, acting as a mediator between the husband and wife to resolve the issue amicably with a mutual involvement. So that's the thing. Next is, yes, you can go to the women NGO and ask for it, and then finally the police authority and complaining to it. Okay, so these are the different sort of responses that you can. Yes, you please, you were suggesting something? You? It can encourage tolerance, or it should, here there is yes, certainly that, yes, inculcating some sense of courage, or if it is not there, then you should also go one mile and step. E-governance, इसमें क्या है e-governance? Filing of the case, मतलब रात में पढ़ा था e-governance, इसलिए filing of the cases should be, e-governance should be introduced, policing, e-policing वगैरह नहीं है. See, the point is now, ये कहाँ लिखा हुआ है? No, come on. When there is a victim, you can talk to any bare victim. What is this? Come on, मतलब, are you really serious about what you are saying? No, come on. If there is a victim, domestic violence is happening, you cannot, is there any rule book that you cannot talk to the victim? Now, the wife of, do not take that way. आपने क्या बोला है कि he cannot talk to the wife of. आपने मतलब पूरा spirit बिगाड़ दिया है. This is not a case of adultery, extramarital affairs is going on. He cannot talk to the. She is a victim. She is a victim of a domestic violence. Okay. In fact, there are feminist scholars. Personal is political करके एक statement है. Personal is political, that the power equation does not stop at the corridor of family. They entered. There is a power equation within the family. That is a ये radical feminism के arguments है. ठीक है? No, victim, if anywhere, आप अगर child violation हो रहा है, say for example, domestic violation की जगह child abuse हो रहा है, child violation हो रहा है, child pornography, child से related है, आप बोलोगे कि you are not a father, you will not talk to the son? Is this the argument? No, you will say that if the violence is happening, obviously you have to take it into account. यहाँ पे innovation. See, the thing is, although the question is not have asked about what step you actually gonna choose, okay, the one step which you gonna choose, ये नहीं पूछा है, so do not enter into the domain, or if you can choose, you can also write which is an appropriate step. If at all one step has to be taken into account, which is an appropriate step. In fact, you have to also, okay, yes, mediation के लिए आप बोल सकते हो, लेकिन the very point is, first, the issue is within the family. It is not an official issue. If this would have been the official issue, you could have gone that way. यहाँ पे expertise उसकी required ही नहीं है ना. You are also an expert. Any Tom, Dick, Harry, class 4 कर्मचारी is also in sort of shown empathy. आप सीनियर को इसलिए बोलते हो ताकि जो फंक्शनिंग का जॉब है वो एक्सपर्ट ही रिक्वायर्ड है, इसलिए व्हेन योर सीनियर इज नॉट लिसनिंग यू गो टू द हायर ऑफिशियल्स इन ऑर्डर टू गिव द डायरेक्शन. यहां पे देयर इज नो रोल ऑफ हायरार्की, दिस इज अ सोशल इशू. इवन यू आर अ स्वीपर, you should take an action against the CEO if it is a domestic violence case, because upholding the value, there is a like Immanuel Kant used the word categorical imperative. That is, there are certain non-negotiable, absolutely important principles that cannot be negotiated with anything. That is respect for women rights, untouchability, caste discrimination. These are something which are very, very obvious cases of violation of basic rights. Okay? Yes. Yes. नहीं, आपको तो तीनों लिखने ही लिखने हैं, merit, demerit, merit, demerit, merit, demerit. What I am saying is, if this question would have emphasized which option you should follow, what you would have gone for? See, mutual reconciliation, yes. Why, and if any other answer, then why? Why mutual reconciliation? Amicably, okay, fine. Okay. Okay, so that is not a big concern. Do not write this image of boss, but this, yes, it can be amicably solved. Yes, what else? Is any other answer? हाँ, harmony वही है, amicably solve, harmony, peace, equilibrium. Yes. Yes, it's better to write this way, but since I have emphasized on one, it is mutual reconciliation. See, the thing is, you may go for reporting the authority also. You will not be horribly wrong, because the question has already stated that domestic violence has already happened. See, the reconciliation and this thing also comes into picture when there is a issue of mending the behavior and still the conflict is happening and etc. Sometimes it's also important when the cases of domestic violence, rape, horrendous crime, there has to be accountability for the wrong that has already been committed. It's not that somebody is promising, okay, in future I will not do so. There will not accountability on something which is horribly gone wrong. Are you understanding? Male educated, हाँ. So, so he is not following. Yes, so that is what I'm saying. You can go for the mutual conciliation or you can go for the, see, mutual conciliation इसमें थोड़ा still valid है, क्योंकि family के जो equations रहते हैं, it is more where you give preference to the mutual reconciliation. Okay, in fact the divorce का period भी इतना 6 months का 1 साल का रखा जाता है, ताकि a situation may arise where they think of joining hands together once again. But if it is not, then legal consequences are there. But if it would not have been the case of domestic violence, and if it would have been the case of sexual harassment at workplace, same situation, that lady is not a wife and sexual harassment at workplace has happened. So there is there has to be an accountability, legal accountability. Are you understanding? If there is a case of sexual harassment at workplace, he cannot simply say that, no, I feel sorry for the past and here onwards I will not do. So that's not a consideration, because their family ethos and legality are different from the public ethos and legality. So in case of public sphere, he has to bear the consequences, legal consequences immediately. In fact, Domestic Violence Act say that he has to bear the consequences directly. If there are objective evidences, you can follow. Okay? So that's how you have to go ahead. I think last question, or there is second last. Yes. Yes, what are the consequences? Authority will take a legitimate action. Domestic Violence Act will be applied. In fact, you can say that all legitimate and legal action with respect to violation of rights of women, okay, he will be held accountable. You can say that. Yes, there will be appropriate justice will be given to the women. Okay, but demerit में ये लिख सकते हो कि there may be a strain in your relationship with your boss, but that is inconsequential, because more important is the merit part. Yes, the 13th question, ABC is a transnational company. Okay, this question is about one of the company, okay, again a capitalist company, is going for the development of, there is a one village called as Vikaspuri village, okay. But Vikaspuri, as there is a paradox, Vikaspuri is not full of Vikas. So, it's a backward region, underdeveloped region. And therefore the company is trying to invest in Vikaspuri region in order to develop the Vikaspuri region. Okay, so the company, now the sense of the question is that company is having a genuine interest in development, but company sensing the possible, but there are problems. The new plant may result in increasing cost of living, aliens migrating to the region, because migration will be there, and disturbing the socio-economic order. The company, sensing the possible protests, tried to educate the people of Vikaspuri region and public in general how the CSR policy would help to overcome likely difficulties of the residents in the Vikaspuri region. In spite of this explanation, the protests began and some of the residents decided to approach the judiciary, as their plea before the government did not yield any result. Now, on one hand, company is trying their level best in order to let the people of the Vikaspuri region know that this development is the interest of Vikaspuri region and there are CSR policies which will benefit them. But they are not convinced with this fact and they continue to protest. They also have filed up the case in the judiciary, or decided to approach in the judiciary. Now, identify the ethical issues involved in the case and what can be suggested to satisfy the company's goal and to address the residents' concern. Now, what are the ethical issues? Ethical issues is again the developmental issues versus the issues with respect to the social. And यहाँ पे already stated issue related with migration and their consequences, issue related with disruption of socio-economic order and involvement of local public in a particular region, issue of consent. Okay, that's also an important issue. Issue of consent and issue with regard to corporate social responsibility. Sustainable development, inclusive growth, ये सब issues है. Sustainable development because environment वाला, inclusive growth, people should be taken into account. A good corporate governance, because good corporate ethical practice is one which takes into account all the people in a society into consideration. So write both the sides, and then development versus social justice debate. There is a larger, if you want to write a headline bigger, that is, it is a development versus social justice. So within the development, you can write development of the Vikaspuri region and the development of organization. Okay, how organization is going to get benefit and the region, and then social justice issues are this. Now, having written these issues, now the question is that how you are going to go ahead to satisfy the company's goal and to address the residents' concern. Is now what you are going to do, because you already, what is the gist of this question? Like where to start from now when the company has tried to educate them, but they haven't, they were unrelenting in a sense that they continued protest. Yes. Yes, in fact, that's a bigger model, inclusive growth model, or what we have discussed just now, compensation plus rehabilitation policy, etc. But the point is, this question is assuming somewhere the spirit is company wants to do all-round development, but the people are not coming forward or getting convinced. So the point is more than that. Point is not about here the intention of corporate is like earning the money, that is profit or profiteering, but also it's very clear cut that they are quite social. So the point is when you want to do something good but the people do not listen, then what is the way out? It's a persuasion ka jo theory hai, okay, because there is a gap in between what is being conceived by the public and what is being, there is a trust deficit. Are you understanding? There is a trust deficit. There is a lack of the message that the company that carries. Now it happens when, जैसे persuasion में तीन part है, source, message and the target. If there is a already conflict in between the target and the source, the target never get persuaded. Are you understanding? Because target will always have this thing in mind that source has certain malified intention. So when there is a contradiction between the two, the target continues to believe that this is not in the interest of the audience. So in such situation, persuasion theory में source में कुछ एक components लिखे हुए रहते हैं. Source में कौन कौन से चीजें matter करती है? Authority, credibility and liking component. Okay. The source, समझ में आ रहा है या नहीं आ रहा है? What I am saying. Okay. We will discuss one by one. Okay. See, the thing is, there are three things in persuasion. Source, the message that you are going to carry and how you are going to carry, that is content of message and how you are going to deliver. And then there is a target or the audience. Now what I am essentially saying, if there is a conflict, ideological conflict or any kind of conflict between the two, even if you have something good, you will never able to persuade the target. In fact, there are certain characters or features on which the persuasion depends. One is the credibility. Second is authority. And third is liking component. This is from point of view of target. If target considered that source is credible enough that we should believe in them, we should have, that is, credibility is trustworthiness. Should we trust the source? Authority, by what authority they are going to tell them. So that's also important in getting persuasion. And liking component, if there is a, in fact, think of there is a hostility to start with, they will never get persuaded because they have already taken their position that this is a hostile and we should not listen to them. So now the question is already stated that we want to do something good, but it is not happening. So it means that you have to bring something where you can able to persuade, okay, effectively. समझ में आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है यहाँ पे? Okay, so credible source and authority and liking. So it means that in that particular area, is there any person or is there any organization which is revered by the public in that area? Okay, any local figure, any social activist, any NGO, or for that matter, particularly you can call upon some sarpanch and etc. of that particular thing and make him understand. And if he becomes a source, then there will be a more credibility, because here it is written that company is trying to educate them. Company is trying to educate them, but they were unrelenting. Now, who is important? Somebody from their own area, somebody from their own group, if try to make them understand that no, look, this is not with a malified intention, this is with a good consequence. So यहाँ पे जो है authority जो है, that is maybe in the Gram Sabha and the Sarpanch you can bring and call upon him. Any NGO which is working in that area, any person who enjoys a reverence and respect in that particular area, such people can be identified and they can be act as a mediator which can pass on this message in a more credible manner. So there will be a more you can say that authenticity, there will be more credibility, there will be more trustworthiness. This is one way, that is through the method of persuasion. Second is through the demonstrable effect. Demonstrable effect means that making them with the clear the facts and figures that this company is known for the good reason. You can bring them, we have already developed in a particular XYZ region and this is how it has been benefited. So something, demonstrable effect, समझ में आ रहा है? Something that you have done in the past and you are trying to demonstrate that this is just not what they preach, but they practice also. Third is you can involve the authority also, because here the question is written that you have already cleared the legal and administrative rules, regulation, etc. So you can bring in the authority में यहाँ पे आ जाएगा, not only Gram Sabha, but say for example the government authority, there will be more legitimacy. Fourth thing can be a stakeholder approach, that in each and everything you can bring on the more participatory thing in order to make them understand. And then apart from that, you have to also talk about that is how you are going to address the concern. So write something like compensation will be given, rehabilitation will be given. So this is a one part of the answer. Second is how to break the ice, how to break the log jam. Okay, even if you have a good things with you, they are not getting persuaded. So there are two parts of answer, that changing and making them contact and engaging them, and second is what you are going to do, making them understand. Have you understood this? Okay, so that's, yes, please. Yes. Yes, तो आपको ये बताना है कि जो corporate social responsibility में you are going to take care of all these things. Like socio-economic order है तो you will be provided with livelihood, security, education, employment. You will be absorbed into business. You will be reduced into the minority. ऐसे नहीं है. We will not be an authority. There will be a more participatory approach. So elevating the concerns that they are having if the new people will come. So you have to say that you are not going to displace them, you are going to engage them in a more positive way, so that it will be a win-win situation. Win-win situation that we are also going to develop, but not at the cost of exploitation of your resources. You will be also a part of it. Yes, see, disturbing socio-economic order is, what does it mean? That your resources are being used by the others, which creates a sort of social, what you can say, social tension. यस अंडरमाइन। तो आपको ये बताना है कि सीएसआर के पॉलिसी के थ्रू आप ऐसी कोई चीज नहीं होने देंगे विच विल क्रिएट अ डिस्टर्बेंस इनटू द सोशियो इकोनॉमिक ऑर्डर। इन yes, we have already talked like developmental issues versus social justice issue. Developmental issue में development of विकास पूरी जो विकास नहीं हुआ है वहां पे, ओके तो consequential ethics. सोशल जस्टिस में लिखना पड़ेगा ना आपको पॉइंट। सोशल जस्टिस में क्या क्या है? सोशल जस्टिस में देयर लैंड एंड रिसोर्सेज विल बी टेकन अवे, so whether they will be there will be a benefits to them or not, so that's a part of social justice. सोशल जस्टिस में पूरा आ जाएगा, all sort of compensation, rehabilitation, etc. Any kind of disadvantage that is going to happen. ठीक है? Yes. Now last question, that is with regard to the Saraswati, who was an IT professional in US. Okay, Saraswati was IT professional in US. Moved by the patriotic sense of doing something for the country, she returned to the India. So there is a positive sense of patriotism. Together with some other like-minded friends, she formed an NGO to build the schools for the poor rural community. The objective of the school was to provide the best quality modern education at the nominal cost. She soon discovered that she has to seek the permission from number of government agencies. The rules and the procedures were quite confusing and cumbersome. What frustrated her most was the delay, careless attitude of the officials and the constant demand for the bribe. Okay, delays, careless attitude, constant demand for the bribe, complexity in functioning. Her experience and experience of many others like her has deterred people from taking up the social service project because they think that there is a bribe involved, there is a careless responsibility, there are delays, there are complexities. So this has deterred them in taking the social projects, social service projects. A measure of government control, voluntary social work is necessary, but it should not be exercised in a coercive and a corrupt manner. What are the measures can you suggest to ensure that due control is exercised, but well-meaning and the honest NGO's effort should not be thwarted? It means that you can use the regulatory, there is a necessity of the regulation, but regulation should not be used as a tool in order to discourage the NGOs. Okay, so that's the whole idea of the gist of case study. So here you need to go through the very balanced, nuanced approach. Okay, balanced in a sense that you cannot just talk about NGO without being regulation. Okay, that will again have its own negative consequences. So some sort of regulation is required. But again, regulation should not be over controlling the NGO body in order to discourage them. So how will you write the answers? How will you go ahead with the question? Because I have already given the hints. What should be this? Okay, first of all, see, there are two things. One broader point, you take a debate on this regulation versus like minimum regulation versus freedom for the NGOs. And second is talk about this delay, careless attitude, demand for bribes. That point should not be also overlooked. Okay, regulation does not mean that you make them do some illegitimate things and then only you will grant the permission. So that sort of a regulation is in fact unethical and inappropriate, illegal, unconstitutional, etc. So first introduce by saying importance of NGO for the social justice and overall thing. Okay, NGO has a larger role to play, particularly when welfare state is taking away its responsibilities from the social sphere, and there is a ever increasing in the demand, social inequalities, problems of the society. In this case, NGO will act as a complementary to the efforts of the state. So NGO are complementary to the state for the larger welfare of the people. Because state, जैसे कहता है nanny state पता है? Fatherly state, nanny state. Okay, so that has become a philosophy of welfare state in the past. But welfare state is unsustainable state. Unsustainable मतलब क्या है? कि government really don't have that much of resources to take care of each and everything of the society and the people. जैसे बोलते थे ना cradle to grave. Okay, from cradle to grave, if the state started taking the responsibility of people, then in fact this is unviable. This is a utopia to think. because everything cannot be done by the state. So in this context, particularly after LPG model, when the state has withdrawn itself out of the responsibility or state control, it becomes all the more important that NGO has come as a complementary role in order to take care of the issues of social justice. Again, you can say that with the LPG, etc., inequalities, glaring inequalities are increasing between rich and poor, between urban and rural, between many other things. So NGO has a role to play for the social justice. So in this context, NGOs are important and they have a larger social role to play, and therefore they should not be discouraged. Now, having said this point, then you come to the regulation, and then you can say that yes, so in this context one can say that regulations are important, but regulation should not be an over control. Okay, regulation should not discourage them. So what are the regulations that you can sing? You have to write certain regulations. You can say that transparency of funding, okay, that is a certain minimum thing. Then international standard practices for regulation of NGO should be followed, so that there will be a more acceptance. If you are following something which is not an international standards and too much of you are poking a nose into the NGO's functioning, then obviously it will be a sort of discouragement. So what is the international standards for the regulations that you can follow? You can in fact take the steps in order to reduce the trust deficit between the NGOs and the government, because there is a lot of trust deficit. Any kind of regulation, NGOs are feeling that this is against us. So they also should be taken into confidence that a sort of international practices and minimum regulation is important in order to maintain the transparency and accountability, so that the NGOs should work in the larger welfare of the people. In fact, you could also write this is important in the context of in India, where there is a leak of IB report which states that some of the NGOs are working with the malified intention. So in this context, the transparency will bring that those NGOs, we need to differentiate good NGOs from the unscrupulous NGOs or NGOs working with the malified intention. But at the same time, you also immediately say that just because some NGOs are like tainted, you cannot have a blanket approach that you go for an extra regulation and over regulation in order to stop them. So there has to be a balance in between regulation on one hand and the autonomy in functioning of the governance of NGO. Okay, one NGO should not be targeted. So have a balanced approach, and then also talk about regulation is fine, but any kind of delay, callous attitude and constant demand for the bribe is absolutely unjustifiable. If this bribe and callous attitude and delay are in a way, then absolutely this has to be discouraged. People who are asking for the bribe should be held accountable and answerable. The callous attitude, that there is a need of inculcation of more democratic or you can say public service oriented attitude into the official, that official should make understand that NGO has a larger good role to play for the society. The complex procedures, single window clearance facility and so on and so things like e-governance here you can bring in maybe. Okay, e-governance, good governance, transparency, this can be bring in so that the process will be smooth. So at least delay, callous attitude and bribes should not be the point of discouragement for the NGO, and regulation should not also be in point, and they should understand that minimum regulation is necessary and inevitable. Okay, so this is how you can say, drop some line with respect to FCRA Act if you can drop. Like this is a very controversial again, but then if you can balance that, because FCRA Act में क्या हो जाता है, एक बोलते हैं over regulation, okay, depending upon right and left where you belong to. Okay, some people will say that FCRA is a monster, or somebody will say that FCRA is a god. Okay, so depending upon that you can write, and if you cannot balance, avoid writing that. Okay, so that's as simple as that. So that is what the conclusion of the paper. And if you have any other issue, you can separately meet me also. But remember that the overall, the message that you have to take back home is the paper is very simple if you categorically read the syllabus points properly. And you just have a simple, very basic conceptual understanding of all the topics in the syllabus. That's the first thing. You need not require to dig into the different scholars and thinkers too much. Even the Rawls was a starting point of social justice. People, those who are not read will not understand this, but Rawls was not a very, very technical thinker. He's an obvious thinker for the social justice. Second thing is, you should go through now this is the fourth paper. In fact, because of lack of time, I could not able to relate to each and every paper, but believe me, most of the things have been some or the other way repeated in the last 3 years. Most of the things. Social justice, patriarchy, whistleblowing, personal conflict, public conflict, bureaucratic attitude, democratic, these are the only themes in ethics. Okay. So once you have understood the themes, you will see that last 4 years question paper, if you do it diligently, I don't think so you will face any kind of a problem. And those people who have done it, in fact, again, it's not a marketing, but the thing is, we had a crash course for 20 hours, and those who have attended, they have, in fact, all 100% of the questions we have discussed in the class, including the technical ones, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, Kautilya, this Rawls theory of justice, and 7 sins of Gandhi. So-called technical, all 4 things we have done in the class. It's not that we have just predicted and it has happened. It may not happen in the next, but these were some of the mere minimum things that are required to be understood. So what we have done is minimum. So in that context, you should know that what is a track. You should not miss the track. That's the point. And I hope you all the best. Okay, that is we have already extended. Yes, any question, if you have any doubt, please ask. Standard books, lexicon you can follow. Apart from that, AR's recommendations. ठीक है